podcast before. I'm going to be aware of that. So there we go. It looks like the live stream is picking up. And Annette, I have to show you, my daughter helped me to create. I remember I had a different version last week that I had covered, but this one, I have one that says that this event is being recorded. So there we go. It looks like the flip side. Oops, I got to mute my YouTube. Hold on a second. My YouTube started talking. My daughter helped me. Quiet, Brenda Meller. Okay, there you go. This is the one I wanted to show you all. This event is being live streamed to YouTube and recorded. And if Julia, my intern, is on the call, she will drop into the chat the link where you can watch today's video on YouTube, as well as the full playlist for all of these. We're doing these calls for coaches and consultants the second Friday every month. I don't see that she's on yet. So I'm going to drop the link into chat right now. And I'll remind everyone that at the end of the call, you can come on, rather go into chat. My intern's texting me right now. Julia texted me, so I got distracted. You can download the chat at the end of the call, so I'll let everyone know there as well. So that's kind of the kickoff for us, and I think we're going to go ahead and get started because the YouTube does look like the stream is working, and I want to get everybody started here. So here's what we are going to do. First of all, I'm going to stop the screen share, bring us up into gallery view. If you feel comfortable having your video on, I would love to see your faces. I work from home, so it's nice to see people other than my dog Pepper. You know, she's lovely. My husband Chris is actually working from home on Fridays, but he's leaving shortly for a meeting. And I don't have a team anymore that I work with, so it's nice to see faces of people that we interact with on a regular basis online. So if you feel comfortable putting video on, great. Hey, if you don't want to be video on, you can be video off. I am totally fine with that. What we are going to do to start us off here for our virtual office hours is I want to see if you'd like to introduce yourself. And today's call is focused on individuals who are coaches, consultants, speakers, and or authors. So in your introduction, I'd like you to tell us your name. And then what are you? A coach, consultant, speaker, or author? Which of the four are you? And tell us a bit of something about your business. I want you to keep in mind there could be somebody on the call who might be interested in doing business with you or hiring you, or alternatively referring business to you. So in the interest of time, let's keep these to about 30 seconds, if that's all right. I just came on another call off of another call for speaker friends. She uses a timer tool. I don't have that set up yet. We might try that in the future, but for now we'll do the honor system, trying to keep these to about 30 seconds. Does that sound okay to everyone? And what I'll ask you to do is if you would like to introduce yourself, use in the Zoom reactions bar, there's a raise hand tool, and Sue's already done hers. So go ahead and raise your hand. I will call on you, and then we will do introductions in the order in which I see your hands being raised. And don't be shy. You might find there are people on the call who might be interested in doing business with you. So if you're interested, please do raise your hand. All right. With that said, Sue, you are up first. Go ahead and introduce yourself and welcome.
Thanks, Brenda. I'm thrilled that there's more and more people on this. I'm Sue Griffey, known as Sue Mentors in the virtual world for the global mentoring practice that I run for people in transition. And I'm also the mentor with pom-poms. If you haven't seen my pom-poms before, you'll see them around. And thanks to Brenda, I now have some pom-pom GIFs. I'm getting better at that, Brenda. But I'm also a budding author. So I have a question later on for the author part. Thank you.
Wonderful. And I'm going to do what I just did. I'm going to bring the next person who's up on deck up next as we do these introductions as well. So Linda Brubaker, you are up next.
Hi, everybody. I'm Linda Brubaker. I'm a job search coach, relatively new in a solo practice. And what I do is that I work with people in transition who are looking for their next forever jobs. I help them identify and showcase their transferable skills to get them hired.
Thank you, Linda. Great to see you. Christina,
Nice to see
you are
too.
up next.
Hi, everyone. My name's Christina Holloway, and I am an executive coach. I am in the process of building out my management training program with my business in that area. And before that, I was an operations and program and project management consultant for Fortune 500 businesses. So I've been doing this for 20 years, and I'm very excited to be here and to learn a little bit something new about LinkedIn.
Wonderful. Great to see you. And I'm going to pull myself back up. Oh, good. I was just going to say I need to call some others from the audience up because I think you all are being a little bit shy this morning. But then I saw David raise his hand. So David, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is David Ball, and I am the infancy of a speaker slash coach position. Pretty much still trying to formulate what how I'm going to define it, but it's based on a business to help people discover their own potential. And I've got a pet name called Power Your Potential, which is based on my own story of being a very sedentary person that became, through a circumstance, became into a marathon runner, and a very successful one at that. And so I'm using that formula to help propel other people towards what they might be able to find in themselves, or help discover in themselves. So that's, again, my name is David Ball, and I'm just at the beginning of being this person.
Wonderful. David, thank you so much for being here. It is great to see you. Next up will be Pam Libet, and I'm going to start to put some folks into gallery view so we can see who's after Pam. Good morning, Pam.
Good morning. How are you?
Good.
Good. So I am do we have friends of Brenda? Are we FOBs at this point, folks on the call? I see. So I coach in and do fractional work for everything based through the lens of communication. So what I am saying, my new tag is kind of speak less speech, more impact. So I help people put their words together, teams put their words together, and I am coaching. I have some clients, and I am in the process of creating a master or spotlight class for a bigger piece of the pie, as one would say.
One might say
Wink,
that.
wink.
It's a delight. And I totally love pie references. So don't be shy if anyone wants to reference pie during today's call. That's my bag, right? That's my thing. Okay, next up is Michelle Summerfield, followed by Hasib.
Hello, everyone. It's nice to meet everyone. Name again, Michelle Summerfield. I'm a life coach. I'm fairly new in my business. I am in the process of revamping. I have worked with clients. My current tagline is coaching women to become the most powerful version of themselves and build their best life. And in my past life, I was an award-winning sales professional. So I have a pretty extensive sales and marketing background, 16 years. That's me in a nutshell.
Wonderful. Thank you for being on with us here today, Michelle. We appreciate it. All right, next up, Hasib. And again, I'll remind anyone, if you want to raise your hand after Hasib and introduce yourself, we're doing 30-second introductions before we get into Q&A. Go ahead, Hasib.
Hi, everyone. I'm Hasib Mahmood. I am a procurement and supply chain strategy consultant. I'm just starting up my business. Basically, I help companies get more efficient and do things faster. So cheaper and faster. That in a nutshell is me. I've done this for about the last 15, 16 years and love doing it with clients. Thank you, Brenda.
Great to see you, Hasib. Thank you so much. All right. I think we've got maybe one or two more on here. I see Dean. So let me pull Dean up. Go ahead, Dean, introduce yourself.
Hi, Brenda. Hi, everyone. I'm Dean Artrick, and full-time I am in transition for an IT leader position, but I part-time facilitate a weekly job search work team and an interview club. So meanwhile, while I'm in transition, I've been working on growing those clubs and keeping that moving.
Great to see you, Dean. Thanks so much for joining us. All right. I think we got Kelly raised her hand. Let me pull Kelly up. And if there's anyone else that wants to introduce yourself to, by the way, this is an apology-free zone. So if you come on late, you don't need to apologize. If you need to leave early, you don't need to apologize. If you were hesitant on raising your hand and now you're raising it, you don't need to apologize. Go on ahead and raise your hand. All right, Kelly, go ahead.
Hey, I'm embarrassed to say that I thought I had raised my hand, but then I saw that I didn't. I guess I've never raised my hand before on one of these things, but yeah. So my name's Kelly, and
I'm glad that you said that, Kelly, because there might be others that don't know how to do it as well. So let me just explain again for the purposes of everyone on the call. Some people aren't as heavy as Zoom users as they go to meeting and Teams and all the other. So in the Zoom menu bar, if you're on the desktop or your laptop version of Zoom, if you hover over in the bottom, there's like a menu bar that appears, and you should see something that says reactions. If not, there's a more button. Click on that and you'll see reactions underneath that. And then when you click on reactions, there's a bunch, there's like applause and thumbs up and the crying emoji and a bunch of stuff on there. And at the end, it says raise hand. So you have to click on raise hand to get that little hand that stays up on there. But thank you for saying that, Kelly, because I don't ever want to assume that everyone knows where these technology tools are hidden. With that
No.
said, go ahead and take the floor.
Yeah, I put the thing that says recognize hand gestures, but I'm a solopreneur, so I usually run these things. And so I have people, I don't ever raise my hand because I'm always the speaker. So I think that's why. So anyway, thank you for that. I'm Kelly. I am a nurse and I'm a lactation consultant, and I've been helping moms and families feed their babies for almost 30 years now. So I am dipping my toe into, because I've been mainly just like clinically working with patients as a solopreneur like this, my own little business, but I'm dipping my toe into LinkedIn and more sales stuff like this because I'm getting into corporate lactation. So at the end of my career, I got maybe 10 more years in me. I want to be a liaison between the working mom who still wants to work, still needs to work, and then the corporations that want to retain the good talent, just being more progressive about women in the workforce, and even though they're mothers. So that's what I've done. And the author thing, I am so proud to say that I am an author. Not really. I did a journal, like a work pump journal. So people can, like, if you're at work and you want to like keep track of everything. And so I just did it. It's through Kindle print on demand. So I'm not totally an author, but I did dip my toe into that, and it was quite the experience. So thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here, and thank you for the work that you do, Kelly. When I worked and I had my kids, we had a mother's room when I had my daughter, but we didn't have one when I had my son. And it's so important to normalize it, to talk about this. This is just part of life and part of being a mom and a human being. Yeah. If those are the choices you want to make. And, I think it's great that you're doing the work that you're doing. So glad to have you on the call.
Thank you.
All right. Joey, it was funny because I saw Joey in the email saying Joey joined the VIP job seeker office hours. I get like a Zoom notification. We used to do those weekly, and now I do different topics every week. So I emailed him and I said, hey, here's the right Zoom link to join. So, hey, Joey, do you want to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Brenda. Yeah, I appreciate it. So I'm sorry I'm late. I'm just supposed to do that. I am a author, speaker, and depending on the hour of the day and the day of the week, a coach. I work with unemployed professionals. I've been doing so for the last 25 years. I am a retired salesperson, if you will. Even though I have degrees in physics and mechanical engineering, I've taken what I've learned about solving problems and translated that to and extrapolated to sales. And I have been helping people, like I said, who are unemployed, and trying to teach them and explain to them that they are in fact selling themselves when they're looking for work. I've written a book about it called Don't Paint Your Kitchen. And I'm writing a second book, which is almost like a continuation of that, but it's a little bit more cerebral. The first one was more, as people have told me, it's more like leading a guide to a positive minded life. So even though I targeted job seekers, according to my readers, anybody could read it. So that's my plug, if you will. But I'm here because I want to learn about coaching. I'm doing it haphazardly, a little bit like Kelly says, I'm dipping my toes in it. So it's something I enjoy doing a lot. But because I'm retired, those of you who are working, don't listen too hard. I really like not working. So, but I want to help as much as I can. So I'm on these calls because I want to learn as much as I can to help others. So thanks for having me.
That's awesome. And I was thinking about you, Joey, because I have a book called Social Media Pie: How to Enjoy a Bigger Slice of LinkedIn. And I'm getting near to the time where I'm thinking about doing like a second edition. And I was talking about this. It was last week. I was talking this about with my daughter. And right now on the front cover of my book, it's a slice of apple pie. And I think about like the second edition, I'm probably going to do a slice of like blueberry pie or cherry pie or something different on the front cover. So I think about when you're doing your first edition of your book is called Don't Paint Your Kitchen. I think there's so many titles I can think of for you, but the second edition might be Don't Regrout Your Bathroom Shower, or Don't Reorganize Your Spice Cabinet. Things we do instead of doing the thing that we should.
That's a great idea. I will take that under consideration. Thank you.
Well, great to see you here as always, Joey. Thank you so much for joining us.
Sure.
Okay, I think we got through all the introductions, so we're going to start to move into Q&A. But before we do so, I want to share my screen with you all real quick because I want to show you not this, a group that I have created on LinkedIn. And by the way, you are only getting access to the group and being informed about what the link is to join if you're on the call with us here today. So I'm going to drop this link into the Zoom chat. This is a private unlisted LinkedIn group, only for my VIPs that come on these calls. This will be the place where we will share the YouTube link to get to the playback more easily if you want to get it to there. But it's also a place where you can share your resources or your information if you'd like. I'm keeping this group specifically by invitation only, private and unlisted. Private means it doesn't show on your profile. Unlisted means you can't find it in the groups directory. You can only find it if you come on these calls. And I want to make sure that the information that you're sharing inside the group is going to be relevant for those individuals who are coaches, consultants, speakers, and authors. For the most part, I'm going to say, keep it more focused on resources. Every now and again, I might say, tell us what your services and products are. So I'll allow for sales posts inside the group. What I won't do is have people come inside the group only to sell. I want to make sure that this is seen as a good resource for you. Okay. Now, when you first visit the group, because it is a private unlisted group, you'll have to click on the button that will say request to join. And then I will admit you into the group. So it's kind of like you knocked on the door and I'm looking through the people and I'm like, yeah, okay, those people are on the calls. So I try to make sure I'm being very careful in screening people in. So we only keep the right people in here for the right reasons. Okay. And as you go inside the group, you're going to notice there will be some posts from fellow group members, such as Annette, that are made inside the group here. And I don't want you guys to be hesitant on posting things. I'm not going to delete things out. What I don't want to have happen is if you've ever seen those groups on LinkedIn where people just come and they're doing selling and prospecting, I don't want that to happen. I really want this to be, look at the title. It's called VIP Resources for Coaches, Consultants, Speakers, and Authors. So if you feel like something would be a good resource for those of us who've been on the calls, feel free to share them inside the group. We'll also put the playbacks for previous calls in here as well, so you can get to those quickly. All right. With that said, I call these Friday VIP office hours because I would imagine if we were in the workplace together, Friday would be the day at 10 a.m. on Friday. I would open my door, and it's kind of like I have an open door policy on Friday. Come on in if you have any questions to ask. Pam says, do we need to join this group? I don't think you need to join the group, but I would think that you want to join the group because this is an exclusive group for all of us. And it's a great place to share resources and to network with and connect with each other. Is it required? Absolutely not. You can do anything you want, Pam. I'm not the boss of you, but I'd say I would encourage you to join the group. It's not something like I'm going to kick you out if you don't join the group, but if you're welcome to. Is there a link to join? But you're already there. Yes. So you're already there. I'll put it inside chat again right now for those of you who are interested. All right. We're going to move into questions because like I said, if we were to work in the office, my door is open. Is the questions are kind of like you coming by and knocking on my door and saying, hey, Brenda, I've got a LinkedIn question. And then I say, and I'm sitting there with Dean and Kelly and we've got our coffee and we're chitty chatting. So we'll open this up for some group discussion here. And I think there was a couple questions already inside chat. So since we've got a small group, I'm just going to scroll back up into the chat of chat, and then we're going to go down to the bottom. So Sue, I love this question. Sue, you're asking, how do I decide if I really do have a book in me? I've been making notes on topics for years, but ... So Sue, tell us a little bit more about what you're thinking right now and what's your why for writing a book too?
All of this is great because I probably only keep putting it in this Word document that's probably 20 pages long already. In 2015, a career services person I worked with as I was doing things at my School of Public Health said to me, Sue, you should write a book called Sue's Recipes for, getting ahead or whatever we were doing at that time, how to tell your story. And that came out of my mentoring process that I had developed the year before and keep working on. Now I have a course in that. I write a lot for the global world about professional branding and how it fits in with personal branding and company branding. But I don't know, there's 1,000 how-to books out there. Part of why people come to me is I help them sift through everybody's advice online. And I'm just trying to figure out from people who've written books, how did you decide now was the time that you had something to convey that no one else could? So I'm just looking kind of like when you all helped me with saying no a couple months ago, which is a good kick in a good slap upside the head. I think, Joey, you talk about you'll give the virtual slap, but not that I promote violence. I'm just looking for authors to tell me, like, when did you finally sit down and do it? Because no one sits down and becomes an author overnight, even if you don't publish.
All right. So I saw Joey raise his hand, but then he pulled his hand down. I think maybe the time hand thing timed out on him. But Joey, what do you think? If someone's thinking about writing a book, why should they? And what's the timing they should be thinking about?
Now's the best time, because all those thoughts that are racing through your head, Sue, and all those notes you've written down, if you take the time to piece them together, this is what I've learned. A sentence becomes a paragraph. And then paragraphs become chapters, and then chapters become books. It doesn't happen overnight. Look at the pyramids, right? Look at the building you live in, right? Every step leads you someplace else, right? But every journey starts with the first step. You have enough steps now behind you. If you look at all those notes and you lay them out on your table and you got some thread like they do in the detective stories, right? And you started connecting and making these dots appear to each other, you'll have a book. It's not going to happen in a day, but you have a lot of the material already. You also need an accountability partner, somebody who will sit on you every week and say, what have you done? What did you do for the last 7 days? And what are you planning to do for the next 7 days? And right, brick by brick, inch by inch, it will be done. And then when you do it, you'll be like me. I'm writing another one. I can't wait to. It's like a tattoo. Once you have one, you want another one, right? So once you write it, you'll have it. And as you're writing, Sue, everywhere you look, you'll see inspiration for another sentence for that book. And it's just you have to stop yourself, because you don't want to write an encyclopedia. Nobody will buy it. But you can write a 100-page book that people will buy.
Thank you, Joey. All right. Kelly, I see that you have your hand raised as well. What advice do you have for Sue?
A lot of the same with Joey too, is having, backing up, I first started to do this journal because I've noticing that a lot of people in sales have books, because it's a great way for someone to get to know you. And it's a great little tiny sales thing that helps move the sales along. I think that's one reason I did it. And so as far as the accountability thing, my husband and I decided to have a reading club in the morning, and we got up a little earlier and it was just 20 minutes. Like, we set our timer for 20 minutes every morning. And it was just like writing. You can't do anything else but writing. And it was amazing. He finished his master's degree. I finished this journal. Like, it was only maybe a couple months, if that, maybe 8 weeks, 6 weeks to be able to do that. But it was the consistency of doing it, and then knowing somebody else, like, if he's out there writing, that's my accountability buddy, I better be writing too. And even if it was a paragraph, and you're right, Joey's right, it just will keep building on itself. And it doesn't have to all make sense in the beginning, because you can edit. And so just getting it down on paper and then starting to maneuver it around was very helpful. So that would be my advice.
Thank you, Kelly. Great advice. Annette, what do you have to add?
Sorry, I'm always muted. So, I just wanted to say one thing, because I heard you, Sue, mention that, everybody's writing a book. There's tons of books on what you were thinking of writing. And the thing is that there's only like 6 or 7 plot lines, and all the fiction, everything we read is based on those. So people say a lot of things. Nobody's saying anything original, really, but it's how you say it. It's your perspective. It's your experience that you're coming from. So I would just recommend that you think about that. That's it.
All right. And I have a couple of resources I've been popping into chat. I'm going to talk about each of them right now. There are 2 books that I read that I would recommend to people who are considering being authors. And by the way, thank you to Annette for your thoughtful comment. We appreciate that. The first one is a book written by a guy called Don Staley. It's called How to Write a Book in 30 Days. So quick backstory on this. I'm in Metro Detroit, and there's called the Rochester Writers Conference. It's once a year. So pre-pandemic, I think it was 2018. It was a year before that. 2018, they invited me to come out and do a talk on LinkedIn. At the time, I didn't have a book, but I'm like, I could talk about how to market your book on LinkedIn. So I did a talk called LinkedIn for Speakers. and it was a workshop. At the end of the workshop, as many of us speakers do, I kind of went out into the lobby to not talk to anyone, right? I needed just to not be around people and not talk. And I was sitting in the lobby, and there was a couple other people sitting around on their laptops and whatnot. And a few tables away from me, or couches away, I should say, there was a guy. And I remember him being in my room, and I said, "Hey, weren't you in the session, the LinkedIn session?" He's like, "Yeah." No, what did you think? Because you always need that immediate feedback as a speaker. Like, what did you think? Was it helpful? And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, what are you doing here?" And he said, I'm doing a panel discussion later." And I said, "Oh, do you have a book?" And he said, "Yeah." And he's written a bunch of them, but he's like, "The one I'm promoting is How to Write a Book in 30 Days." And I'm like, he did not approach me. I invited him into the conversation. So I didn't feel like it was a sales pitch, but I said, "Well, tell me about the book." And he told me about it, and it was, $20 for the book, whatever. So I went and bought it. And the whole premise of the book, it all is boiled down to this: like, anybody can write a book in 30 days, but you need to have time and focus to do it. And you need to dedicate that every single day for 30 days you're going to write. It might be for 30 minutes, it might be for an hour, depending on the length of the book, but you can do this in 30 days, but you got to commit to it for 30 days. And the other part of it is, when you're in the writing phase, you do not edit or censor yourself or go backtrack or anything like that. He recommends, if I'm remembering correctly, start with the outline and then pick a chapter to write each day. And you don't even have to need to go in order, just do the chapters in any order, but you write free form without editing and reviewing. You just write free form. So I did this. I started in November of 2018, I'm thinking. I think it was 2018. Maybe it was 2019 now that I'm thinking about it. But anyways, I wrote for a solid month. I think there may have been a day or two in there that I skipped, and I went into the first week of December, but close enough to writing the book in 30 days. I ended up hiring him as my book self-publishing coach. I wanted to self-publish, but I wanted to have somebody to guide me through the process. It was a couple $1,000s of an investment to work with him, but it got me over the finish line. Can you do it on your own? Absolutely. Does it take more work? Yep. Is it a little intimidating doing it on your own without having gone through it before? Absolutely. That's what was holding me back. So that's one route. The other is, there's a book. I have 3 things I'm going to share with you. The other is a book called How to Build a Better Business Book, written by, and I'm pulling up the Goodreads link, from Josh Burnoff. I interviewed him based on the recommendation from another person. He was on my LinkedIn Live, and I bought his book and I'm reading it. And as I'm reading his book, I'm thinking I should have read this book before I wrote my book, because there were some things when I went through the process. I'll be honest, I really wasn't thinking, Sue, of like becoming a New York Times bestseller. It was like, check it off the list, because I've had this on my list for years. Check it off my list. And at the end of it, I didn't buy the package with my coach that included marketing and PR. So at the end of it, I'm like, well, I work in marketing. I can do this myself. I did, but I felt like I could have done a better route. And he has some really great suggestions on that. And he even covers the different paths to publishing. You can do completely self-published. You can do a hybrid model, working with somebody like a coach or whatnot, or you can go to one of the publishing houses. So he walks you through even that part of the process. That was really helpful for me. And then the third is, I interviewed a woman, Barbara Bolt, and she talked about being on a collaborative book project. So she was invited in, I think, one of 20 people, to submit a chapter to the book. And the person who was the publisher did all the heavy lifting. They did all the coordination of all the submissions and everything. The particular project she was involved, I think this is really appealing. The cover says, and I'm just making this up, Brenda Meller and Barbara Bolt for our edition. So let's say Brenda Meller was the publisher. Now, Sue's chapter, she would get a cover of the book that would say Brenda Meller and Sue Griffey. So even though you had one chapter in the book, the cover had your name. The cover design was the same, but everybody had their name on the cover for their version of the book. So I just mentioned this to you because you don't have to write it from scratch, and you don't have to do it yourself. You certainly can, but there's a variety of other paths to becoming an author if that process does seem intimidating to you. So I think what I would say from a marketing and from a business standpoint, what I have learned, and I welcome the audience to contribute if you have additional thoughts. If you're thinking about writing a book, think about, what are your goals for getting a book written? Is it to generate additional sales and additional revenue stream? I think if that's the case, be realistic. It can cost thousands of dollars to get a book published. Even if you're going to be going the route of having Amazon do the print on demand, because you have to pay for proofreaders and copywriters potentially and cover designers and things like that. So there will be some costs that will be involved. I tracked my costs and I knew when I broke even on it. So Social Media Pie is now profit generating for me, but it's not enough for me to retire from. Some people publish a book because they had it on their bucket list. I want to get it published. I've been talking about this for years and I get it published and I have it. And then they use it almost as a really fancy calling card or business card. I've had some of my clients, they give their books away to prospective clients. And I'm like, why would you give that away? It's like, well, because sometimes it leads to business for them. So I'm going to pause there and I'm going to ask the question, was this helpful for you, Sue? Did you get what you needed from that?
Yes. I have 3 actions. One, I've got to get everything off that Word document and lay it out. And I'm definitely, Joey, a visual person, Post-it notes, just pieces of paper. I think that'll help me. 2 is not so much thinking about the goal. I know it's not going to make me money. I'm not doing it for that reason. It's more just trying to find the organizing framework. And I can't, between Kelly and Annette, the ideas you gave me were figure out what it is that I want to say that seems to be my unusual voice. And the third one is, no matter what I decide about accountability, I think I'm going to use this group and try to make myself at least report mentally each month as I join this group in the morning, like, okay, 10 a.m. on Fridays coming. This is coaching and book author week. And I'll give you a little update in the chat box. How's that?
That would be great. And I've got a book marketing checklist, pre and post production of your book. Julia, could you drop that into the chat? And part of what I did, Sue, if you remember at the beginning of my process, I announced on LinkedIn, hey, I'm going to be finally writing my book. And throughout the 30-day process when I was writing, I was telling people, and I would even say, if you message me or email me or text me, ask me how I'm doing on my writing. Because I wanted people to like, and I had days where I was like, oh, I do not feel like writing. And then I would get a text from Pam Lippett saying, hey, how's the writing coming along? I'm like, I'm not right. It did build in accountability partners. And I feel like, Pam, did you do that? I feel like you probably did because we're good enough friends. Pam, you're muted right now. I can see that you're talking, but I can't hear what you're saying.
I probably did. It was probably more of an encouragement than a
No, it was
like a push that you weren't doing it.
Yeah.
I'm in an accountability pod now and I'm failing miserably, but I'll get there. So
you're probably not failing miserably. Your accountability
I gave myself a C.
There you go. Oh, well, there you go. Okay, so we're going to keep this moving along, and I'll remind you all, I call these VIP office hours for coaches, consultants, speakers, and authors. So if you have any questions about any of those categories that we can help you with, do let us know. All right, I'm going to go back up to the top of chat. I saw another question from Kelly, and this is a LinkedIn question. Does anyone use Sales Navigator? And if so, what's your experience? I'm finding it helpful in getting leads and some sales call meetings, but wondering if I am missing other features. All right, Kelly, are you able to speak a little bit right now?
Yes.
Okay, so you've been a Sales Navigator subscriber. It sounds like you're poking around in there. I'm going to start us off, but if anyone else is using Sales Navigator that you'd like to offer advice, feel free to raise your hand and I'll call on you. The first thing I'm going to say, Kelly, is with Sales Navigator, you're also a premium subscriber on LinkedIn. So you do get access to the LinkedIn Learning Library. Are you familiar with that when I say LinkedIn Learning Library?
You know, I have seen that. I haven't taken advantage of it, but I did. Or maybe I have done a long time ago. I may have done one, but I haven't. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to pull this up on screen as I'm talking about this right now because I want to illustrate what I'm talking about. So if you're a premium user or a LinkedIn Sales Navigator paid subscription user, you will see under the For Business icon, which is, it looks like a waffle in your top menu bar, but where it says For Business at the top, there's a learning tab inside here. And when you click on learning, I think what happened is a few years back, LinkedIn bought lynda.com, lynda.com, which is like a video library. And if you are a premium or Sales Navigator user, you get access to all the videos that are inside here. And keep in mind that these videos are all vetted by LinkedIn. They're going through the library with their approval. So if you're looking to learn Sales Navigator, there's actually 2 courses inside LinkedIn Learning about Sales Navigator. Oh, they've even got more now. The
Cool.
learning one is the one that I'm referring to, and it looks like they've got one talking about integration with your CRM. Get 500% more. This is a newer one 2 months ago. So I would definitely go inside here, and I'm going to pop this link inside of chat right now. So if you want to just hyperlink to go right to the search results for that, but I would definitely start there. As for me, I am a past Sales Navigator subscriber. For the longest time, I was doing LinkedIn Premium, and then I decided to upgrade to Sales Navigator. I was doing it monthly, and I'm like, I'm getting value out of it. And every now and again, I would get clients asking questions about Sales Navigator, and I'm not a heavy user of it. If you are looking for some coaching or training, I would refer you out, and I have a couple names of folks that I could give you. But I know enough that I could poke around and find items in there. And I'm probably more knowledgeable than the average person on, on Sales Navigator if you're not a user. So I know where to look inside there.
Yeah.
For me, one of the parts of value that I found in Sales Navigator is you can apply more filters than you can in Premium and more filters than you can in the free basic version. One of which being looking at people who follow your LinkedIn company page, and then you can put in criteria that matches your target audience criteria. So for me, that was really a rich source of leads. So they've visited my company page for Meller Marketing on LinkedIn. They've clicked on follow, which is basically them raising their hand. They want to learn more about me and my business, but we're not connected, and they match my target audience criteria. So I would reach out to those people, invite them to connect and say, hey, I see that you're recently started following Meller Marketing. I'm the face behind Meller Marketing. Let's connect on LinkedIn. And a couple of those really easily turned into clients. So that for me, I look at the ROI, and that's, I think, a more important thing. Like if you're thinking about upgrading to Premium or Sales Navigator, what value are you getting out of it? I don't make any money on whether or not people upgrade, but I don't like to see people wasting money either. And I will share with you, Kelly, that I did have Sales Navigator for a really long time, and I was doing the annual subscription. And then over the summer, I was looking softer months, and I was looking at cutting some costs. And the Sales Navigator, I think to upgrade for the year was like 700 something. I'm like, I don't know if I'm really using it that much. So I decided I wanted to go down to Premium, and there's no easy way to step down from Sales Navigator to Premium. I got into a chat, and they said you have to cancel it completely at the end of your annual term, which was that month. So I said, okay. And then I got to the end of the month, and I was on the free basic version. And I'm like, you know what? I'll leave it for a little bit. I'm going to see what I'm missing from Premium, because I always tell people the benefits of upgrading to Premium. That ended up actually resulting in me getting my account restricted, and I got into LinkedIn jail. I did a blog and a podcast about that. I'm going to put it, ask Julia, could you put both inside chat so people can watch it? The short story is this: I was doing the same activities I'd always been doing, which, by the way, were in compliance with LinkedIn's terms of service. But one day I opened up 10 LinkedIn profiles at a time, and I typically don't open more than 5 or 6, because I've learned that 10 can be like a trigger for automation, or them sensing that automation might be used. And this particular day, I opened like 10 tabs, and I had to after the call, I had another call, and then I left to go walk the dog or something. And I came back a couple hours later and tried refreshing my screen, and I got a notice that my account was restricted. And it was like 3 weeks of this going back and forth. In the middle of that, I had a LinkedIn Live-a-thon that I got locked out of from my account, but I could still stream. It was a little bit of I don't want to say a nightmare, because it was a good learning experience for me to share the information back. But in the long run, I had to upgrade to Premium to really get the flag removed from my account, which to me seemed a little bit odd. At any rate, going back to your question, the value of Sales Navigator, I typically tell people don't upgrade to any of the premium solutions unless you have fully optimized your LinkedIn profile for your ideal target audience. Okay. You should also be personalizing every single invitation you send, even those on mobile, and have a process for screening in people who send you invitations. That's more than just looking at their name. And then finally, you should be really focused on network engagement. And that means regularly participating in conversations in the homepage feed, as well as posting on a regular basis, at least once a week or more. and replying back to people. If you're doing all of those things, then it may make sense to upgrade, but
Okay.
only if you're getting an ROI, a return on investment, and
Mhm.
paying money to LinkedIn. Okay. I'm going to pause there, Kelly. Any questions or thoughts on that?
No, it's helpful. Just a friend of mine had told me about LinkedIn because, as you guys know, I'm a nurse, so I like it's all new to me. But I went through some sales training, not LinkedIn, but just my friend who does sales training, and she was talking about the warm handoff, and so I've been using it a lot. I don't do the sales. I don't do like cold calls through Sales Navigator at all. And just doing this in my community for 30 years, I'm helping probably at least 25,000 families. It's so funny how the people remember me. Like, even if their kids are 17, they remember me, and now they're working in HR, and then it kind of leads from there. So it's all been very organic, which is great. But I find the Sales Navigator good to be able to go through, because I'm looking for benefits managers and HR people and insurance people, because it's going to be part of a benefit package for the employee. That's kind of where my target is.
Yeah.
And so it helps me because you can see their profile so well, and you can see, I mean, I guess you could probably get this on premium too, but also another cool thing is how it organizes it. I like how I can organize.
And there's a different feed inside Sales Navigator. So I think it reduces the shiny object syndrome that we sometimes get when we go into regular LinkedIn. Sales Navigator, it's a feed of your leads and target companies. So it's keeping you more focused. It's like when a horse wears those blinders when it's marching down the street.
Yeah.
It keeps you more focused on those things.
And
I mean, you can certainly do that with self-discipline and by unfollowing people and going to their profiles. It takes more time.
Yeah.
But I probably will upgrade again to Sales Navigator. Right now I'm on premium. I still think there's value in it, but I want to make sure you're getting some return on it too.
Yeah, the notes are very good too, like to keep track of who I said, what I said, like, and little things about like, oh, she has grandkids, or, like little things about that you can keeping track of who I talked to. So there's still that personal touch.
Yep.
But
one
then
question I would have for you, Kelly, on keeping notes or even using Sales Navigator for messaging and things like that. If you ever close your Sales Navigator account or downgrade from Sales Navigator to premium, you're going to lose everything in there. So what I don't ever send people messages through Sales Navigator. I go to the public version of LinkedIn, so I still retain that messaging history.
Yeah.
And I mean, part of the reason they do this, Kelly, is they're a business, and I get it. They have to make money. Yeah. I mean, they're really trying to create that FOMO, the fear of missing out if you ever close your account, because they're like, are you sure? Even for me, I was on a pretty good rate that I was grandfathered in at. I don't think you can do it for $700 a year anymore. But they said, are you sure? Because if you downgrade, you're going to lose the rate. You're going to lose your messages. You're going to lose your note. You're going to lose all the stuff. And I was like, for a second, I was like, well, maybe I don't. But they were doing that as a hook. Those marketing people, I'm a marketer, so I can say that. Those marketing people were trying to hook me in to keep my subscription. But just be aware of those things. There is certain information you can export from your personal LinkedIn account and activity and things like that, but Sales Navigator, you cannot export that. And they do that intentionally to keep you in. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think I have been doing it through the LinkedIn, like messaging. And so I will message someone, and it allows me to say a lot more in my messaging. It seems like my thing. And then how I found it helpful is I'll in my message, I can drop my Calendly link. So I'm just so surprised how many people take me up on that. And like all of a sudden I'll get a thing for a 15 or 30-minute Zoom so it's like a sales call.
With Sales Navigator?
Well, with Sales Navigator, but even in my messaging, I put a link into my Calendly.
Oh, you're talking about with prospects. You're talking about sales. So when you first sign up for Sales Navigator, I think there's a way that you can get like a demo call with somebody from LinkedIn to demo Sales Navigator for you. But that their goal is not really to train you on Sales Navigator, it's to sell you Sales Navigator.
Yeah. So. No. I'm just talking about like HR people, my clients. So it's been helpful that way. But you're right. I do it through LinkedIn, not Sales Navigator. Okay. So hopefully I'll still be able to retain all of that.
On LinkedIn you will, but if it's through Sales Navigator, you won't.
Okay.
Joey, I see that your hand is raised. Did you want to add something to the conversation?
I did. Kelly mentioned how she's collecting information about her clients. I reminded me of the McKay 66. Harvey McKay is a salesperson, became very famous. All he did was sell envelopes, but he created a whole world around this Mackey 66. It's a list of questions that he asks his clients. So you understand them on a personal level so that you as a salesperson can become more distinguished from the competition who doesn't take the time to be interested in the clients, kids, birthdays, anniversaries, dogs' names, colleges attended, stuff like that. So you can find it online. Just Google Mackay, M-A-C-K. I put it in the chat, M-A-K-A-Y 66. Just Google it and you'll see a list of 66 questions. And for each client you have, you create this spreadsheet or a form or whatever however you want to collect the data. And you can keep track of your clients and their personal history so that when you talk to them, you can bring up a school that they went to or a hobby that they have. And it's a great tool to help you distinguish yourself from all the other lactation nurses that are out there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Whoops, you're muted. Or I think you're muted, Brenda.
Oh my goodness, I was muted that whole time. God, you are unmuted. Thank you, Sue Griffey. All right, I'm going to keep us moving along. We got about 15 minutes left. Pam, did you have your raised as a discussion item on that or for
Yes.
the next question?
On that.
Okay, go ahead.
So I was just going to say, with what you said about Sales Navigator not being something that you get to keep forever, and I haven't used it, but I use an actual CRM and I put my notes in there because then you can create a task. So if you have someone's birthday, you can set a task to remind you. So I use the free version of HubSpot, which I really like. And so as you're growing, that's a good way to then ask people their email address and move them out of there and into a newsletter or whatever you can do. I also was just going to quickly say that when I was unemployed before I was self-employed, I signed up for the job seeker level of LinkedIn. I put it in the chat. It's never kicked me out. And it's like $30 a month. So, and I get all those filters and everything.
That's a great point too. Job seeker, there's job seeker premium, business premium, sales navigator. So there's like a hierarchy in there.
Yeah.
There's, I think one of the limitations between job seeker and business premium, I think you get more searches for profiles, if I'm not mistaken, in business premium. But the job seeker premium, depending on when you signed up, I think $30 a month. It might be a little less than that. Could be a little bit more now, depending on when you came into it. With all of the versions of paid LinkedIn, keep in mind that you should get a 1-month free trial. And if you're a veteran, I believe you get 1 year free of premium. So check that out. And someone did mention as well, you can go to your local library and they will have the ability to get into LinkedIn Learning to watch the videos for free without paying for LinkedIn too. So check that out in there. All right, Pam, while we have you up, I see that you have a question. And you said, people always tell me that I give good advice to them. How do I give it to myself? I just need to do a better job asking people for referrals and testimonials. Do you not ask people for referrals and testimonials? Tell me about this.
Do, but I equivocate. Is that the right word? You know, like if you could give me, that would be great. Or I don't follow up, or like a year later, maybe I follow up, and I just would never allow that from a client. So, and I'm looking for more referrals. So I'm just looking at if anyone knows how to give themselves the advice they give others.
So I will say, in terms of referrals and recommendations, I am a strike when the iron is hot kind of gal. So when I am in a coaching call with a client and at the end of the call, they're like, oh my gosh, this was great. I can't believe how much value. And I was a little worried about the investment I paid for you, but this was like, I got so much more. I was on a call yesterday with a client 2 or 3 times during the call. She's like, that piece of advice right there was worth the whole investment in working with you. She said that several times. So when those things happen, strike while the iron's hot. I'm so glad to hear that, Pam. Hey, by the way, when we're done working with each other, I'm going to send you a LinkedIn recommendation. If you wouldn't mind like saying that same thing in the recommendation, that would really help me out as I'm looking to grow my LinkedIn business, my coaching business as well. And I'll send you an email reminder about it too. And then we move on from it. Like do it right then and there so it doesn't feel awkward. Does it feel awkward for you? Is that what's holding you back, Pam? You're muted.
Oh, I was just repeating the question in my head, which is a great communications tool to give you time. I don't know. I just, yeah. Yeah, I guess it feels awkward. As I
Irony is
dabble.
the what do they call it? The shoemaker shoes. I don't know what the thing is.
Right.
But why can't we marketers market ourselves? You know, it's the irony of it. You just got to get in the habit of doing it. And I'm going to give you another piece of advice. I recently had a call from Trustpilot. So they emailed me and they said, hey, can we talk to you about our upgraded solutions and how to use Trustpilot more effectively for your business? And I'm like, sure. And I set up a Trustpilot account like years ago, but it was more just to have it. And I asked for a couple people to recommend me and I didn't do much more with it. I did create a landing page on my website. And by the way, Julia, could you drop that link into the chat right now where it has like testimonials or reviews, I think it's called. It's the Meller Marketing Review. So where you can see people who've given me review. I embedded a link to my Google My Business reviews page. So you can click there and go right to them. And I also put one for Trustpilot in there. So this Trustpilot random person contacted me through email and said, hey, can we talk to you about how to get more out of it? And I said, sure. So I got into a sales call basically. And the guy got on the call and he's like, right away, he's like trying to sell me. And he's like, well, why did you want to do this call? And I said, well, and I should be polite, but I'm like, well, you guys reached out to me asking me for my time so you could demonstrate Trustpilot features. So I didn't want to upgrade, but I am always open to learning more. And I'll be honest, normally when I get a pitch for a sales call, I will decline it, but I am using Trustpilot and I figured maybe I could learn. So I was very transparent with the guy. I'm like, I took the call because you asked for it. I didn't say I want to upgrade to Trustpilot. And I think he was a bit put off by that, but you know, that's neither here nor there. So during the course of the call, he explained to me that there is a way that you can send out 100 invitations through email every month to get people to give you a Trustpilot review. And these are free. And it might not be every month, it might be every 90 days, but it's 100 of them. And he didn't in the course of the call explain how. He just kind of said that you can do this. And then after the call, I mean, throughout the call, I learned, I think you have to pay like $300 a year for the next version up of Trustpilot. I don't get a lot, but on the call, he's like, if people go out right now and Google Meller Marketing Reviews, he's like, go Google it right now. What do you think comes up in the top results? Trustpilot, because it's the best reputable provider. Now, he's like, and your last, he was like kind of criticizing me. He's like, your last review was like 5 years ago and you only have 4 of them and blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, I do LinkedIn for a living and I use my recommendations there instead, but you've just given me an idea. Every time someone gives me a recommendation on LinkedIn, maybe I'll ask them to do it on Trustpilot as well. And I looked him up on LinkedIn during the call and I looked in his recommendations section, you know, what's coming, right? And I said, now your last review on LinkedIn was 7 years ago. Wow. That's kind of surprising. You're going to attack me in your yard. You're going to put into my yard. That's where my ball is. I'll tell you the same thing. But I've since started instituting a process where after a coaching call, there's a widget thing you need to set up, but I can go into this BCC and put the Trustpilot email. And a week later, it'll send you an email to give me a review on Trustpilot. So there's some ways that you can automate the review collection process. Trustpilot is just one of these formats to do so. If anyone else on the call is using any sort of a service to collect reviews or automate that process, please raise your hand. I'll call on you. But I just wanted to share that story with you. Joey, I see your hand is raised. Did you want to add something to this? Go ahead.
I did. Thanks. So Pam, so a year from now, Pam, if I asked you, how's it going in your business? You'll say to me, well, I've got all these referrals. And I'll say, how'd that happen? You say, well, I asked. So that's right. You asked, because the worst that can happen is they don't do anything, right? So the best that can happen is they sell you. And it's the cheapest form of marketing. It's the cheapest form of selling. Doesn't cost you a dime. And as I think Kelly wrote in the notes here, people want to help you. If you've helped them, they'll help you, right? But that's the sequence of events. You got to help them. And if they're willing to buy into you, it's certainly fair for you to ask, are there 2 or 3 people that you can recommend who would benefit from the service I provided to you that I could provide to them? and then a year from now, when I ask you how's it going, you've been going, I have too many referrals. Okay, great. Perfect.
I think P2, Pam, is in the beginning when I was first doing my business, I was giving away my services or doing complimentary coaching calls and speaking non-paid and things like that. And that always is part of your payment, a recommendation. You always build that in, and now I even send an invoice. If I'm doing it for free, I'll send them an invoice with my cost in there, but zeroed out. And then I might just mention in the invoice, upon completion of the talk, I'll request a LinkedIn recommendation. So I'm like documenting it, making it look more formal in there. The other thing I wanted to mention, I've lost, Pam. So when I remember it later, I'll text you and let you know. All right, we got 2 more questions I want to get to. We may go just a few minutes over, but I think these are both really good questions. So first one is coming from Michelle, who says, what are your recommendations for setting up a company page? Michelle, you mentioned you offer writing and coaching services. You have 2 pieces broken out. I have people recommend adding a company mission or value sections. What tips do you have for setting up a great company page that attracts clients? All right, so Julia, could you please drop into the chat the blog and video I have about setting up a free company page on LinkedIn? Michelle, I also want to let you know that in addition to this week's event, which is focused on coaches, consultants, speakers, and authors, next Friday, we have a call that is dedicated 100% to LinkedIn company pages. So I want to invite you to come on out to that call. We will make that a topic of discussion. I will use that as the very first question for next week. At a high level, I'm going to tell you this. You definitely should set up a LinkedIn company page. Your description or about section of your company page, I believe it's 2,000 characters. I recommend using all the characters in there. And I definitely would say split out the descriptions of each of those coaching services, writing services inside there. You also should be posting on a regular basis on your company page, ideally once a week, but you can certainly do more than that, 2 to 3 times a week if you want even. But starting off, I would say once a week, but periodically remind people about those services. When people go to your company page on LinkedIn, they are only seeing an activity stream of posts made by the page. And if it's interesting what they see, they're going to keep reading down. So maybe both promoting those services, but illustrating your expertise. And you can do so in a couple ways, showcasing videos of you talking about those services. That's one. Another is questions that you get from clients about those writing and coaching services. All right. Michelle, are you still on the call, and was that helpful for you?
Yep, I'm still here. That was very helpful. Thank you very much. I do have a bit of my page set up. Like I do have it broken out as here's life coaching, and I have my pitch, and then I have the writing services below that. But like I said, I had people saying, oh, you should have like a little mission and values blurb as well about, just who you are as a business owner. So that was why I had asked the question.
I will say most people don't read the full about company page description. I'll be perfectly honest with you. It's similar to your about statement. They read the first few lines and they don't click on see more. The right people will, especially if what they see on the page is interesting and they're thinking of doing business with you, they'll start to kind of immerse themselves into researching your company. But let's not make it hard for them by burying it all into the about. Like periodically bring some of that stuff into your posts on the page too. And sometimes what I do is when people ask me questions. And by the way, if any of you ever have any LinkedIn related questions or marketing questions for that matter, you can email me, you can message me on LinkedIn. Typically what I will do is I won't just reply to you. I'll put it as a post either on Brenda Meller on my activity feed or more than likely on my company page. And I won't say Annette asked me this or Dean asked me this. I'll say someone asked me this and here's my response. And then I will message you my response. It's up to you if you want to self-identify and go on the post and say thank you, totally up to you. But then I'm using it for content for more people than just for one response on there. So thank you, Michelle, for asking that. We're going to end with one question, and this was from Hasib about CRM systems. And his question is, do people use any CRM tool to manage their relationships, clients, and communications? Right now, you're using a mix of Excel and Outlook and looking to make this more consistent and efficient. And I'm going to ask for any of you who are using a CRM system to drop the name of those systems inside of chat. I'll start us off on this and say, Hasib, at the beginning, I was doing the exact same thing you were doing. Excel, I use Gmail, but basically similar process. I, in the beginning, was using a system called 17 Hats, which is kind of like a CRM. It also has some email capabilities and it has some invoicing and some other functions too. I kind of outgrew that, and I'm now using a combination of a few different systems. I tried HubSpot. I wasn't crazy about it. It's changed, so it might be better now, but I'm sure it's better now. But I'm using, I use Trello in some aspects. That's a free project management tool. And I also have used, I'm blanking on the name. So I'm going to see if others have suggestions, and I'll see if I can remember the name of it in the background. Is anyone else using a CRM system that they're really happy with right now? Pam, do you have your hand raised about CRM? Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah, Brenda, I think it's what you put into the CRM. I'm happy. Let's set up a call and I'll help you figure it out. But, you know, all CRMs are pretty much the same. It's just a matter of each one calling a task or a thing something different. So whatever you choose, whether it's Pipedriver, there's a bunch.
Pipedrive, that's the one that I have used before.
So I have one client that uses Pipedrive. The only thing is that the thing I like about HubSpot is I can make a second administrator for free, where on Pipedrive you have to pay for each person. And that's why I kind of like it. But it is, once you get it set up and you import your people into it, I have a BCC on my Outlook that just sends my emails straight into it. It is truly a time saver and a game changer.
And I believe Pipedrive too, it tracks all of the emails back and forth if you have the
Mhm.
paid version of it and you upgrade, and then everything is, and there's even some really cool things where it, like, you can schedule follow-up calls and whatnot inside there.
That's all in the free part of HubSpot. You just have
Okay,
to
good. And
take a look
someone
at
had
it.
asked, does Kajabi have capabilities? Somewhat. One of the concerns I have with Kajabi using that for a CRM system, if you look at a customer's record inside of Kajabi, there's a life cycle tab, which you would think life cycle would be like the full life cycle. Like when I was looking this up, like someone had recently enrolled in my course, The Recipe, and I was looking at where did they come into my system because I hadn't really heard of this person. And the history wasn't reflecting where they had come in, which checklist it was or which email or whatnot. So I got into a chat with Kajabi and I said, I'm trying to figure out where this person came into my system. Found out that life cycle, get ready for this, it's only 30 days back. I said, but life cycle is life cycle. In marketing terms, life cycle is the life cycle, like the entire life cycle. And I said, if you're calling it life cycle and it's only 30 days, you know what you should call it? 30 days, not life cycle, because that's a little bit frustrating. I was able to figure out, get this, from LinkedIn, where we became connected, because at the original point that I connected with the person, I referenced the event that we met at. And then from there, I messaged them with a checklist, and then they came into my system from there. So LinkedIn's not a CRM system necessarily, but it helped me to kind of identify where that person was from. At any rate, Hasib, I want to see, was this helpful for you, getting a couple of ideas on different solutions for you today?
It was. I've tried a couple of these, and I'll try some of the others and see what works best. It's just ease of use and how much, as Pam said, how much information you put in and how you manage it.
Yeah,
But
great.
appreciate all the insights from everyone here.
Well, great. Well, we're happy to help you, and so glad that you're on the call here today. All right. So as we end our discussion today, I will remind everyone, these are Friday VIP office hours that I'm doing for free every Friday. And I'm doing these a different topic every Friday of the month. The first Friday of the month is VIP office hours for job seekers. Today is the second Friday, so we're doing office hours for coaches, consultants, speakers, and authors. Next week, it is for, we're going to be focusing on company pages. Let me just drop into chat real quick here. And then the fourth Friday will be for individuals who work in as a social media manager or in a marketing role. Now, even if you're not a social media manager or marketer, you're welcome to come in there. You can be a fly on the wall, you can listen in, you can participate in the conversation. What I will do is, just like we had a question about company pages today, I'll briefly answer, but then I'll redirect you to come into one of the other weeks where we go a little bit deeper on the topics. I was on a call last week and we were starting to troubleshoot technology. We were talking about lighting and Zoom settings, and I have this background lighting, and we were talking about that. And I said, I think I'm going to do a fifth Friday, which only occurs like 4 or 5 months in the year where we have a 5th Friday of the month. So it's a little bit lighter, but the 5th Friday, if there's a month with a Friday in it, on the 5th week of the month, if there's a 5th Friday, we're going to do a tech check and tech tips. So in 2023, there will be 1 month that will be December. So it's literally like December 29th. I know it's during the holiday week, but if you're interested in joining, we're going to be opening up the registration for that soon. The next one after that, I think, is like March of 2024. So there's only like 4 or 5 days in the year where we'll be having that. But what I'm going to do is invite people who are focused on technology or video or lighting or Zoom or whatnot. So I'm inviting Robbie Samuels to come in. I've invited Vicki O'Neill, who specializes in video, to come in. I'll probably get Christopher Johnson on one of these as well. I'm excited about that. And, for me, I kind of selfishly pick topics I'm interested in and bring on people that I want to learn from as well. So if you're interested in learning more about that, be sure to check out mellermarketing.com/Friday VIP. All right, my friends, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Reminder, this will be converted to a podcast at a later date. If you're interested in following that podcast, go to your favorite podcast player and look for Enthusiastically Self-Employed. Alternatively, you can find my podcast at mellermarketing.com/podcast. And we'll probably have this show converted into the podcast maybe next week or the following week. With that said, have a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to go ahead and end the broadcast now, and we'll stand for a few minutes in